This morning we're going to start a new series on sonship. Sonship. What we give it?
Sonship.
Sonship. Sonship. Turn me please in your Bibles, if you will, to the book of Galatians chapter 4.
Galatians
Verse 1.
4,
Yeah.
verse 1. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all.
All right. Let me just be like a barefoot priest to you this morning. Let's just stop and understand verse 1. One thing you need to know is that when you are reading scripture, you need to understand it in a context. One of the things my private school teachers taught me was we need to understand, first of all, who is speaking. To whom the thing is being spoken. 3, well, of course, what is said. 4, the historical setting. This is key because if you don't understand the historical setting, it will be difficult for you to really grasp what is said. We heard somebody said, this man bad. It can sound like the person, as we know it in our era, as terrible, mischievous or something. Now, the historical setting in this time, bad means exceptionally good. And so, he bad for days. Now, if you don't know that, then you wouldn't understand, you wouldn't be able to appreciate it. You understand? So, everything, you will understand that even when Jesus spoke, he spoke to the people in the time and the period because they would grasp what was said. Most persons don't grasp the scriptures because they don't go into the historical setting to understand what the people thought, how they operated, what things were important, what was their thinking. Like, let me give you an example. Jesus says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Yes.
Or the eye of a needle. Most people think it's a sewing needle. It's not a sewing needle. The eye of the needle was a hole in the wall in Jerusalem.
Amen.
That if people came late, they wouldn't have to open the gates and then go through that. But it's very difficult to go through that in the hole. And to get a camel down on all fours to get it through was a very, very difficult task. Now, if you don't understand the historical setting, you would immediately begin to think of a sewing needle. You understand? So putting a camel through the eye of a sewing needle is impossible. So Jesus was not saying it was impossible, he said it was difficult.
Amen.
It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle because if somebody came late and had a camel, they had to get a camel through.
Amen.
But it was a very, very difficult task. So we need to understand the historical setting. Now, Jesus is using something, an illustration, talking to people who understand what it is to be an heir and to have to be under governors and all that. He understands, talking to people who understood that. So he's saying the heir, as long as he's a child, he different nothing from a servant. Verse 2 is going to explain why. From a servant, though he be Lord of all. No, the heir to the throne, like the heir to the throne, most of you were not born in British Guyana, but you still have some understanding of what's happening. Queen Elizabeth, when she dies, the heir to the throne will be should be Charles, her son, the eldest son. He should be the natural heir to the throne. Well, but as long as she's there, he is not. So really, all that the royalty possesses will actually be his when she abdicates or she dies. But there was a time Charles was under tutors and governors, as verse 2 would say, because he was a child. So he's an heir, but he's still a child. So you need to understand God is using this illustration, the Spirit of the Lord is using the illustration. If you don't grasp it, you won't get it. essence of what's being said. This is why I want to stop it, for you to understand, think of it in the setting. All right? So the heir is, long as he's a child, he different nothing from a servant. What it means? It means that if he wants something, he has to ask. A servant has to ask. And the heir, even though Prince Charles was heir to the throne, there was a time anything Prince Charles wanted, he had to ask.
But is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the father.
Here it goes. Was under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the father. In other words, the father determines when the child no longer needs tutors and governors. And the child don't determine that. The parent determines that. The father determines that, okay, you're grown now and you don't need tutors and governors. So he's using this illustration about your human race. About the human race. We were children, we came into this state of childhood and servanthood because of something that happened. Now, so I want you to understand, he is making an analogy and he's referring to the church. He's referring to the human race actually. That's actually what he's referring to. And those who will believe that Christ died for them. He's really referring to that. As a matter of fact, to the human race. Humanity had sunk into that. So, with that in mind, we'll read, understanding what the scripture actually is saying. Verse 3 starts with, even so. You see, I told it's an analogy, he's making a parallel. So, please read on for me, Bishop.
Even so, we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world.
No, stop here. Even so, when we were children, because the Bible says the heir is long as they're a child. So even so, when we were children, and children has nothing to do with age. Paul said, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child. When I became a man, I got to be a child. Distincts. I thought, spake, and understood as a child. Manhood has nothing to do with age. It has to do with your thinking, your understanding, and your speaking, or your behavior. That's what determines a man. Has nothing to do with age. Similarly, children has nothing to do with age. In this context, Jesus referred to the grown men as my little children. So it has to do with understanding. It has to do with understanding. So our understanding was affected. So he says, even so, when we were children, we're in bondage under the elements of the world. Now, I want you to understand something here. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, why are you worried about when you eat and drink and all of that? All of these things are elements. And Jesus, according to the scripture, we were in bondage. When the scripture says we were in bondage, it's actually saying we were slaves. We were reduced to bondage. We should not be, but that's what we were. We should not be slaves to these things, but we were reduced to it. Whenever you have to worry about something, it's because we are reduced to bondage over it. You don't worry about where you have power over. You worry about where you think has power over you. So the Bible says, when we were children, we were in bondage to the elements of the world. I used to think it was the law, in the sense of the Mosaic law. But spiritually, the elements, the word elements, when the scriptures speak of elements, it is speaking of any force thing from which to the same group that can make a particular thing. The elements from which all things have come, the material cause of the universe. So everything you see, we can touch, is an element. Some of the elements have become solid, so we can touch it. But they're elements. Anything you can desire is a composition of elements. Water is an element. But we're in bondage to water. We don't rule over water. Wind is an element. We don't rule over the wind. But we saw somebody rule over water and wind.
Amen.
That's Jesus. We saw somebody who was not in bondage to the elements. He walked in the water and spoke to the wind. He said, stop it. No, children can't do that. But sons can do that.
Amen.
You getting this?
Amen.
So the Bible says when we were children, we were in bondage to that. In other words, it had authority over us. It ruled over us. What we saw, somebody, another human being, who exercised authority over it.
Amen.
He walked in water. He turned water into wine. That's ruling over the elements. Whatever is present, whatever molecules and atoms has to form up over a certain period to make wine, he commanded them to form up immediately and turn into wine.
Amen.
He was not in bondage to them. They had no authority, he had authority over them. You're following this? Now this sonship is deeper than you think. Not just saying, oh, you're sons of God, or it's greater than that. When you get an understanding of it, it will excite you. So, even so, when we were children, we're in bondage under the elements of the world. When we were children. Now that should be past tense in our lives, but it's not always that way. Go to verse 4, please.
But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons.
Okay. When the fullness of time, now listen, beloved, the mere fact Jesus came, it means it's a high time and it's a full time for us to come from under the bondage of the elements of the world.
Amen.
It's high time. Because the Bible says when the fullness of time. So God saw it was time for this to happen. God saw it was time for this to take place. So the Bible says he sent his Son to redeem or to buy us back because we were sold. As a matter of fact, what Adam did caused us to be sold under the elements of the world. So we lost our state, we lost our status, we ceased to be who God really created us to be. We ceased to. The only thing that was different with God and Adam was that God had withheld from him the knowledge of good and evil. God, this is what caused the fall. As I was meditating this morning, I thought of children. We teach them fear. We teach them fear. What they had no knowledge of was existing laws. The good and evil is laws that exist in the natural realm. You didn't get that? that they exist in the natural, and they had no knowledge of that. So it's like, because they had no knowledge of it, they were not bound to it. They were not in bondage to it. A child, I saw on Facebook the other day, 2 days ago, a little girl was riding an alligator. A crocodile, riding a crocodile. On the crocodile's back, riding. In, forget which country in Africa, children ride, they play with them and ride them. Crocodiles. What? Yeah, they play with crocodiles.
Amen, amen.
I saw the other day this guy in Africa, South Africa, white guy. He goes to wild lions and play with them. Think of some things that can happen. Have you ever seen anybody walk on fire? Have you ever seen it? And I saw you walk on fire. How is it possible? If you find someone who walks on fire, it means it's possible.
Amen, amen.
It is possible. It's funny, or I think it's not funny, that the scientists have discovered that we only use 5% of our brain capacity. Now why God made us with the other 95%? The other 95% allows you to function as God.
Amen.
Limitless, to be limitless. If you were to use 100% of your brain capacity, you are limitless. That a movie called Limitless. You are limitless. What do you mean limitless? Just what I mean. You have no limits.